My name is Sinead O'Flynn, and I'm going to talk to you today about health and well-being in the workplace. So I'll just explain to you a little bit about myself before I start into it. So I'm the founder and owner of Health for You, and I'm an award-winning nurse and nutrition practitioner. So I won Businesswoman of the Year in the STEM professional category in 2022 for Network Cork. I'm a very passionate gut health advocate, and what I'm very passionate about is educating and empowering people to health accountability. So for people to understand their own health and what they can do for their health and well-being and how they can maintain it so that they can move forward in life and prevent further any illness or disease or to manage any conditions that they have. So I originally trained as a nurse over 20 years ago, about 22 years ago, in Manchester in England, and I've worked in Ireland, the UK, and Australia in quite a number of roles. One of my main roles, I suppose, has been a nurse specialist in the areas of gastrointestinal disease, and in cardiovascular risk reduction as well. So preventative health has kind of long been a passion of mine, and it was through them roles that I kind of got into nutrition and through my own ill health over the years that what got me passionate about nutrition, and in the end, why I ended up setting up Health for You. So before we start into it, what I just want to do is do a little questionnaire with you all. Nobody needs to call this out or anything like that. This is just for you to do for yourself and to keep the scores for yourself. So you can write them down, and we're just going to tot it up at the end then. So this is looking at how much energy you have and blood sugar control. Okay, so if you just mark these out of 1 to 5, so 1 is that you disagree and 5 is that you agree. So on a scale of 1 to 5, I often have mood swings or difficulty concentrating. So how would you score that? So 1 is disagree and 5 agree. I get dizzy or irritable if I go 4 to 6 hours without food. So again, 1 is disagree and 5 is agree. I often overreact to stress. So scale of 1 to 5 again. I often crave something sweet or coffee after my meals. I have less energy than I used to have. So again, 1 is disagree and 5 is agree. I often feel too tired to exercise. I am gaining weight or finding it hard to lose weight. I often have energy slumps during the day or after meals. I still feel tired 20 minutes after getting up. So again, 1 is disagree and 5 is agree. I need tea, coffee, a cigarette, or something sweet to get me going. And I often crave chocolate, sweet foods, bread, cereal, or pasta. So again, 1 is disagree and 5 is agree. So if you just tot up your scores, and anything over 15 would be classed as high, okay? So what you'd be looking at there is what areas you kind of scored most in, and that's really your health goals. That's what you need to work on to get your health back in shape. But this is important, I think, for us to understand this when we look through the presentation, health and well-being. It's going to give you an idea of how this can affect our workplace environments and how we perform in work. So workplace health and well-being. So the Gallup survey in 2022, now it's an American based, but it was worldwide, but they stated that $20 million of opportunity is lost every year for 10,000 workers because of low well-being and the drain on that performance then within the work environment. They stated that $322 billion is lost globally in employee turnover, and the productivity is lost again because low well-being shows up generally as burnout in people. In the Irish side of it, the survey showed that 49% stated they were struggling and 49% said they were thriving. And
Sinead, you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Did it go for long?
I'd say maybe 2 minutes.
Okay, so do you need
Maybe
me
a
to
minute
go
and a
back?
half. Yeah, I'd say just go back to, I lost you there at, yeah, so about the gallop and
Okay.
workplace.
Page?
Yeah, that one.
Sorry, no
That's it.
apologies.
Yeah, no, you're fine, Sinead,
Yeah.
there's no problem.
I don't know what happened because it's not on the screen. Okay, so
No.
yeah, so I'll go through it again, the survey. So it was American, but it is worldwide. So they stated that $20 million of opportunity was lost for every 10,000 workers due to their low well-being and the drain on their performance. And $322 billion was globally lost in employee turnover because of low productivity with that low well-being, which generally tends to show up as burnout. So on the Irish part of it, the study showed that 49% of people, the workforce, stated they were struggling, 49% were thriving, and the other 2% felt that there was, nothing going on, there was nothing to report. So that's practically half of the workforce, that's being affected by their health and well-being in the workplace. So they generally tend to show up as burnout, high stress, their emotions are impacted, it affects their overall life evaluations, and impacts their social well-being. So employees who are recognised at work do evaluate their lives more positively. So why have workplace well-being? So promoting workplace well-being, health and well-being, really, it's essential for employees and employers, okay? So offering wellness programs, it helps to improve employees' physical health, it reduces their risk of chronic illness and chronic disease, it'll support their mental health, and of course, it'll reduce stress levels as well. So it'll tap into those too. So the benefits for that then, excuse me, are employee productivity. So well-being workplace programs will address factors like their work-life balance, their overall health. It'll look at stress, the mental side of it, and this will all then help to lead to higher productivity levels. It helps to improve employee engagement and retention. So again, when employees feel that they're supported and they're valued by their employer, they're more likely to stay within that organisation. And that in turn will then reduce your turnover rates of staff and of course the costs that are associated excuse me, with recruiting staff and retraining new staff. It helps, of course, team collaboration and morale. So again, having those positive work environments and cultures, that's going to support positive teamwork, promoting teamwork, enhancing communication, strengthening the relationships with colleagues. And that all leads to increased morale and job satisfaction within the teams, within the whole department, and within the whole company. So it'll obviously help employer brand and reputation. So organisations that do prioritise workplace well-being, they are reported as attracting top talent, and they do have a positive reputation then within the job market. Of course, there would be a cost of savings then, because if you're going to be preventing and addressing any health issues and getting them early on, that's going to reduce people from being on sick leave and reduce that absenteeism. And it's going to also reduce that presenteeism. So that's when employees are present, but they're not fully productive. So again, if you look at the blood sugar, energy and blood sugar questionnaire that you did at the beginning, you can see how that, totally can impact how people may not be fully productive, because they might be hungry in between meals and their blood sugar levels are going to spike, and then their work productivity is going to drop, obviously, and emotions will be all over the place. And then this is where things like burnout come into play. So the health and wellbeing services that Help for You provide we have easily accessible health programs, which are devised through an app, which I'll talk to you a little bit about in a minute. Health talks and workshops, health screening, so point of care testing, which shows instant results, which I'll again discuss with you now in a minute. And then you can have a combination of all of them or have them as individualized. So before we go into talking about the health programs, what I just want to bring up is about gut health, because gut health is the key really for all of our health, and it's one thing that I'm passionate about, and I've worked in research as a nurse in the area of the microbiome, and I find it fascinating. But our gut health plays a role in our overall health status, okay? So no matter what food we're taking in or what exercise we're doing, if our digestive system is not is not at optimal health, it has that knock-on effect through the rest of our body, okay? And it impacts our overall health. Our gut bacteria, we've microbiome all over our body, but the gut is the most extensively studied, and it's very, very complex. And it's as individual as our fingerprint. It's where our genetics stems from. And while we can't change our genetics, we can change how our body reads our DNA, and that's called epigenetics. And that's how we change diet, lifestyle, the environment around us. And we can actually alter the DNA for the generations ahead of us. So gut health is really important. Our gut bacteria release chemicals around our body, and that's how it impacts on our health. So when we have the healthy gut bacteria that we need, that releases anti-inflammatory chemicals. But then the bad bacteria that we get, it releases inflammatory chemicals, and that's where low-grade inflammation happens. And over time, we get chronic illness and disease, but we don't know what's happening underneath the surface until we start to get symptoms. So what do some of the symptoms look like with gut health? These are just very few. There's thousands upon thousands, but you can have bloating, alteration between constipation, diarrhea, pain, heartburn, tiredness, daytime slumps, craving different types of foods, headaches, migraines, high blood pressure, low blood pressure, fast heart rate, having palpitations, increased urination frequency. There's, a list of symptoms that can happen. But again, this is where gives you an inclination there's something going on with gut health. So what the health programs do they're easily accessible, as I said, through an app. So all of the program itself, they're tailored to the company and employee needs, okay? Or they can be based on individual consultations, or it can be done as a group. So examples are something like weight loss or gut health programs, or a menopause or a night shift. And what you're looking at there is that it would be over maybe a period of 4 to 6 weeks. And there would be menus in place, or, advice or videos up to explain and educate people about gut health or perimenopause, menopause, whatever it might be, so that they get to understand their health. And then there can be chats in between, if it's a group program, there can be chats in between again, and things can be added in like webinars. It's very individualized to whatever each company needs. The health talks and workshops then, again, can be tailored to whatever is needed there. So you could be looking at monthly, bi-monthly, yearly talks, depending on what topics are important within the company and the health and well-being, what employees are seeking. Workshops then can be either on-site, they can be remote, and they are very interactive. So again, it's about getting people to understand their own health, because what works for one person doesn't always work for another. But even working on a group program gets people to start getting into their health and understanding what's happening for them. So the diagnostic health screening then, what that's about is point of care testing. So this is the machine you can see in the pictures here. So it provides rapid results, okay? And these are highly accurate. So the machine has been approved by the National Hemoglobin Standardization Program in the International Federation of Clinical Chemistry. It's a fingertip test, okay, blood. It goes into a little cassette and goes into the machine, and it reads within a period of minutes, okay? So what that point of care testing means is it's convenient. So they're getting their results there and then, so you're not having to wait around for someone to come back to you with the results. That facilitates then health management. So especially with early identification of preventable diseases. I'll tell you in a second what profiles we look at. But again, what it is, they're getting their results, and then the diet and lifestyle advice to go with that right there and then, all in the one session, so they leave with everything that they need. So it's targeted for prevention and treatment of, conditions that somebody may already have, and improving health outcomes for staff, for the staff and the company. So what happens is that, again, this can be as part of the health programs, or health screening can be done on its own. If it's done on its own, they generally tend to be 20 to 30 minute sessions. People will fill out a medical questionnaire, and then the testing is performed, and then, as I said, the results come. So you'll have one of the results take 7 minutes, and all the others take 3. And then it's the diet and lifestyle advice that is then provided to that person. So genetic history is taken into account in the medical questionnaire. So again, it is that overall picture for them, but still very individualized for each person. So the screening profiles that we look at, so it's cardiometabolic screening. So cardiovascular, so it looks at a full lipid profile. So these are all gold standard tests that are provided. So it looks at a full lipid profile, looking at their risk of heart disease and stroke. Diabetes, the HbA1c, again, gold standard, looking at their blood sugar levels. So for those who may be pre-existing diabetes, again, that's where it tends to pick up things for people that they're borderline and that they can work on their diet and lifestyle to get themselves back on track. Kidney disease, so it's the ACR, the albumin to creatinine ratio. It's a gold standard in the NHS. It's not something that's routinely done in HSE. And on the NHS, the ACR will be checked yearly for people in people who have high blood pressure or diabetes, because again, they're the group that are obviously at higher risk of kidney disease. Inflammatory markers, so the C-reactive protein will look at how much inflammation is going on in the body. No inflammatory test markers will show where the inflammation is, but it will tell you what level of inflammation is there, and then that's down to looking at, doing an assessment to see what's going on with the body and where the body is requiring support, where that inflammation may be coming from. And then hemoglobin levels, so again, looking at the risk of anemia. So why look at health for you, for health and well-being? So, workplace well-being is crucial, obviously, for providing healthy, productive, positive work environment for the employees and the company as a whole. Myself, I have over 20 years experience, so I have worked on large-scale corporate health screenings, public screenings within corporate setting for the health screenings, then large-scale public screenings and initiatives, doing talks out into the public. I've managed cardiovascular risk reduction and respiratory programs, again, out in the community in GP and pharmacy department or units. And I've also set up satellite clinics when I worked in gastrointestinal diseases. I set up satellite clinics around Munster. It was the first community service at the time. And the approach with Health for You is totally holistic. So it's looking at the overall picture for people. And particularly, I suppose, gut health is where that's really important for people, because that's the key of where we need to look at our health. And my role is a supportive role, and I'm like a mentor, so I'm guiding people to understand their health. I'm not spoon feeding them with the answers. Yes, I'm helping them to come up with the answers and guiding them of what they need to do for their health. But it's very much, again, about empowering and educating people how to manage their health, so that they can continue to do that for the remainder of their life, to prevent any disease or conditions. So thank you. And if anybody has any questions.
Thanks a million, Sinead. That was really interesting presentation. I actually have one question myself, if you don't mind. First, are probiotics the best thing to take?
So probiotics, again, like supplements can be good. They should only ever be used for short-term use. Supplements should never be used long-term. The thing with probiotics is that if you unless you know which part of your microbiome, your good gut bacteria, is depleted, you're blindly taking a probiotic. So there's so many different strains of good bacteria. And if you're taking a probiotic that you already have enough of that gut bacteria, you actually can cause a bacterial overgrowth. So this is where it's very difficult for people, because there's so much out there, and people will go in and you don't know what you're choosing, and you're going to try something. What I always say is, if you are trying a probiotic, if your symptoms are not improving, well, then don't waste your money and time on something that's not working. It's not the right probiotic for you, and you might need to try a different type. But equally, you do need to be careful that you don't end up with something like a bacterial overgrowth by taking an inappropriate one. So it's just trying to find the right advice out there for you of what might be the most appropriate.
Okay, thanks, Sinead. If anybody else has questions, they can ask Sinead, or they can type them in the chat box if that's easier for people. So another question there as well, Sinead. So to see 49% of people are struggling, present but not productive, the opportunity to prevent chronic illness, and people can identify what markers, areas to help to be more productive.
Say again, sorry. So to see 49% of people are struggling. Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is. It's huge. That's massive. Like, I think half the workforce. I think it's kind of quite frightening, but it's great that people are able to open up to say, that these were the issues, because we all know what it's like when we're hungry. I mean, I certainly can't go very long between my meals, and I can't function properly, and put that into the workforce where you're trying to keep that underneath, but you're trying to do your work, but you can't run out of a meeting to go and eat something, it does affect our productivity. So yeah, it's huge to say that you can, the difference that can be made by just, and it's quite simply bringing in health and well-being. It's not something that has to be, a massive big undertaking of something. It's really just about educating people, how to look at their own health and what they can do for themselves, that accountability.
Great, thanks, Sinead. Another question coming in there now as well is where best to find information on suitable probiotics?
So again, it's really about finding the right type of people. Like I would also see clients, individually. And when I would see my own clients, I would be prescribing their probiotics depending on their symptoms, because I'd have a fairly good idea what's happening. But outside of that, it's really about kind of going to health stores where somewhere like, so here in Cork, we have things like Here's Health. Like, you want to find the health shops that have, the people who are working in there have done nutrition training, because it's 3 years, so that they have the right training behind them and understand, so you can tell them a little bit about what's happening for you. Or like that in other places, you might have smaller health shops that, again, the person who works in there, who owns it, has done that training. So it's just about trying to find the right people. The marketing around us is huge, and that's life, and it is hard, and you'll see 3 for 2 and 2 for 1, whatever. But yeah, it's just about trying to be mindful around us, guess what you're buying, and try. I suppose too, there's a lot of gut health forums out there as well across social media. So again, it's about informing yourself. It's not really about copying maybe what somebody else has done, because that might not work for you, but kind of getting yourself informed and seeing where people are getting this kind of information from too.
Okay, great. And then we have another question. What's the best way to improve gut health in a natural way?
Food is always the most important.
Yeah.
Always. Now, there's the gut-brain connection, so that's what's really important. So when our gut is not functioning, it impacts on our mental health, right? So that will impact on our stress, and straight away our mood will be off when our gut health is off. And when your gut health improves, you see a massive improvement in your mood straight away. But food is important, and keeping your stress levels at bay. So like fruit and vegetables, people, I mean, there isn't time to kind of go through this kind of stuff, but what you need is, and this is what I would often ask people when I'm doing workshops, is do they know how much portions you should have? So we should have 7 portions of fruit and vegetables a day, and that's a lot for a lot of people. And there's hints and tips around trying to get that much into you, because they're full of pre and probiotic fermentable foods like kimchi, sauerkraut. They're all really good for our gut health. And then, of course, maintaining stress levels is really important, because it's not just that gut-brain connection. The brain-gut connection is equally as important. So if your nervous system is impacted by high stress in a work environment or in your home place, that's automatically going to impact in your gut. So you're going to end up in a kind of a catch-22. So it's really important to keep on top of things.
Thanks, Sinead. Is there any other questions before we finish up? I can see somebody typing there. No, that seems to be it, I think. Sinead, thank you for such an insightful and interesting presentation. Thanks to everyone who joined us this lunchtime, and I hope you've some great nuggets of information to take away with you. If you want to sign up to the South Westmeath Forum, I will put my email in the chat box now. And also, if you have any, I suppose, further questions for Sinead that maybe you didn't want to ask here on the event, you can, Sinead will also put her email into the chat box, and you can contact Sinead directly if any of you are interested in having a consultation with her. That's it. Thank you very much. Thanks, Sinead. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks. Thank you.